Welcome back to Doing Bar Things, and today um, it's been a bit, but we're gonna power through here and make a video anyway. We've had some interesting things happen. Um, so on a personal level, I'm about to get hooked up for an EEG, and I'm thinking about doing a video even with that. um, it's a home study, and the next 4 days are gonna suck. So maybe to put some levity into it, I'll make a video or two. Um, Ideally, I've really been wanting to make more videos, but it's just been really hard with everything that's going on. So we'll do our best. Um, Big thing is, I wanted to make a quick video about a couple points. Um, Number one, the Super Series, the refresh from NVIDIA, so far. Um, oh, hi Kat, how's it going? So far, the people are rejecting it, which I think is hilarious. uh, it's like, yeah, it still sucks. People don't want 12 gigs of VRAM. They want at least 16. They want more VRAM. So what what that means is a stark rejection of 12 gigabyte VRAM cards, because people want cards that they think will last longer. That's what I think it boils down to. These cards are not cheap. They're expensive. They're investments, and people want their investment to last longer. Um, and it's such a glaring. Cat just stole a piece of paper off my desk and is going to go play with it now. That's fun. Um, so it's just such a glaring bottleneck or potential, maybe bottleneck's not the right word, but planned obsolescence, right? Like it's just such a, these are not budget cards. A 4070 Super is not a budget card. It's mid range, at least price wise. It's 599, and the custom models will go up from there a little bit. So that's a lot of money for someone aspiring to build a mid-range machine. Um, so there you are. The 4070 Ti Super is on its way. I think we'll start seeing reviews of it. Uh, and you can see here it's going to fall, around, like they're showing 8% from a 4080, which, like, I would be shocked if they allow anybody to overclock this thing or play with it. I would bet dollars to donuts you could get easily to um, a 4080. Like, it would be no problem at all. It's gonna be 15-20% slower than the 4080, probably 4080 Super 2. I mean, there's a reason why they're doing away with the 4080, and it's because of this card. This card is on the same die. It's the 8103 die. It is a cut down 8103 die from the 4080, but it's not massively cut down. So it's going to do a little better on power. And it's, for all intents and purposes, it's going to be like kind of the 4080 replacement. They knew that it was going to cannibalize 4080 sales, certainly for $800 compared to the $1,200 4080. Like, there was no reason, right? And then with the 4080 Super coming in at 1,000, it's going to be faster than the 4080. So yeah, there's no reason to have a 4080 Ti Super and a 4080, basically. So it makes sense. The problem is, I still think it's really expensive, and I think gamers are starting to get a little bit tired of how expensive things are, and I don't blame them. Um, I don't blame them one bit. So we're gonna have to see how that plays out. Anyway, um, that was something I just want to have a few comments on. I think that we're gonna have a rough year for video cards, potentially. Um, AMD needs to respond to these and get ready for the 5000 series. So hopefully they do that. Intel, unfortunately, I think the Battle Mage card will be good, but I'm not super hopeful um, that it's going to come in and be this. Oh my gosh, this 4080 competitor at $600. Um, I'm just not very confident that that's what's going to happen. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on it, but what I'm hearing is, you know, some people are super enthusiastic, but the ones that are super enthusiastic tend to be enthusiastic about everything. So I'm a little bit critical of that. So I think um, the way that Intel's playing it, I don't know if they're going to come in and really make a big splash. Now, having said that, um, let's move over to a different subject. So I think the Super Series are okay. I do think the 4070 Ti Super probably will be the, I hate to say bang for the buck, but it will be kind of the most bang for the buck card out of the refresh. Um, I think that all that AMD needs to do is drop their prices accordingly on the 7000 series, and we're right back to where we were with a little bit cheaper prices, which not going to throw shade at that. That's always good. But then it'll be, do you find yourself just needing the NVIDIA features? Cool. If you are good with FSR3, then maybe go AMD. It'll be one of those kind of things, and I will call them all overpriced in the end, more than likely. So just be prepared for that. Um, Next item. Okay, I saw this video and just started laughing. Can Intel beat Zen 5? Well, of course they can. It's possible. Of course they can. Man, people seem to forget. Intel's been doing this shit a long time. They've been doing this a really long time. Of course they can. Will they? Will it work out that way? Um, Zen 5 is a big IPC increase over Zen 4, um, but not necessarily clock speed. I've actually heard about clock speed regression a little bit. If its memory control is a little bit better, with an IPC gain of say 20%, which I think is being probably right about in the range. Conservatively, it'll be 15 to 20%. I think 20% is probably what they'll hit, 19 to 20% in IPC. And so, just very broadly, generally speaking, you'll get about a 20% uplift in performance. I think that's great. That's for CPUs, that's a generational uplift to get into the 20% range when we had for so many years. And again, this is what Intel's paying for today, and what they've been paying for a couple of years now, is that they got very stagnant at 4-core CPUs, low single-digit performance gains. I think some of the, what was it? Was it Skylake? I can't remember, but all the way back going to Sandy Bridge, and then after that, some of their performance increases were just minuscule. They really were just playing with power, trying to get efficiency, trying to get um, more uh, more efficiency for their wallet is what they were trying to do. And ultimately, they ended up kind of getting caught when Zen came out, and the big push for AMD has been into the data center. Like that's where they've made their gains, and that's where Intel's been sucking wind and really getting beat up. Can Intel make a better desktop processor than AMD? Yes, of course they can. Some would argue maybe they have. Like some would argue the 14th gen might be the best desktop CPU right now. I don't necessarily think they've got a bad argument. I think it depends on what you're doing. Um, so, I the biggest, the really the only problem I've got with the 14th gen is just the crazy amount of power it sucks down in order to get to where it's top. When you take away its ability to drain all that power, it suddenly becomes very close to AMD's offerings. And AMD's offerings are a little bit more power efficient. So, temperature wise and messing with all that, things are really close, honestly. I think a 7950X and a 14900K are pretty close. Um, the 14900K definitely wins in that scenario, but they're pretty close. And so I don't think you're losing much. You're losing some, but you're not losing a ton if you go to a 7950X, for example, over going to a 14900K. But would you do that when you've got 14900K out there that you could just buy for around the same price? That's where things get a little bit, and so that's why I would say you definitely got an argument to make about the 14900K maybe being the best desktop CPU. Now, if you're just talking about gaming, the X3D chips make a case for themselves. I think the 7800 X3D is really the one, right? I think the other two, the 7900 X3D, the 7950 X3D, interesting gimmicks, but Windows is not ready for them yet. Um, I would actually argue, again, my biggest problem with Intel, I don't think these efficiency cores really do anything. Um, I don't think they're very beneficial, honestly. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe eventually we'll see the grand scheme of this play out, but I really don't think at the moment they kind of do what their intention are. I mean, there's not very many things I can think of that I want to put on an efficiency core rather than just having a full core to do, because the full core will do it faster. So that's what, and it's not like they take a bunch less power. They take less power, but it's not a bunch. Um, I think there was a on the 13900K. I think somebody disabled the performance cores and was showing like just this crazy amount of wattage taken by all the efficiency cores at full tilt. Um, yeah, they don't perform as well, and they do still take power. That's the part that I can't get my mind around is if the performance cores do the job, like I mean I think that's where AMD has kind of got the right idea. Well, I say right idea. I think Windows is more apt to use the performance cores the way that AMD has them laid out versus what Intel has laid out. Where AMD went wrong is with the XRD cores when they had half the cores with the V-cache and half without. I don't think Windows really knew what to do with those, and I still don't think it does really. You have to kind of jump through some hoops to make that work effectively. But I don't think it's that far off of what the same issue is with the 14th gen or 13th gen or 12th gen. These efficiency cores just, I don't know, it's an interesting idea, but I don't really think, there's some future plan with these, I am sure. Um, and the performance cores for the 14th gen are no joke. Those things are crazy. What I wish is, I wish we could buy a version that doesn't have the efficiency cores on it. 8 cores, 16 threads of Intel performance cores. Like I wish we could do that. That would be interesting. I would love to see that because I bet they would overclock really high. You'd run them at a really high frequency, and I bet they would smash games. I bet that would be interesting. So, um, I digress. I just think it's weird the way they're going at it. And again, there's probably some plan behind this that we just haven't seen yet. But I don't really think Windows is very good at uh, understanding and using those cores appropriately. I'm not sure if anything is like as far as OS, but I don't think Windows is really, you know, doing it like perfect in any way, shape, or form. Um, so I don't know. Like it just seems weird. Um, Maybe they'll do something like that with the next gen. But what I've heard about the next gen is Arrow Lake. Arrow Lake is going to be a big jump in IPC, per core performance, or maybe even IPC. I think just IPC gain. They're talking like in the 30 to 40% range. That's humongous. That is massive. If that's over 14th gen, that is big. Now, here's a problem, okay? Just like AMD, just like Nvidia, just like everybody, Intel will do some pretty shady marketing practices, okay? So the question is, and what I will pose is, were they talking 40% over or 30% over? That's the question. If they're talking it over the 14th gen, that's going to be really fast. That's going to be really strong. If they're talking over 12th gen, that happens to be on the same socket and they're kind of like, uh, blurring the lines a little bit, it's not going to be quite as fast. And AMD is touting 20% over the current gen. So if they're referring to 7th gen to 9th gen or 8th gen or 9th gen, I think it'll be 9th gen. I think they're going to skip 8,000 and go straight to 9,000. Their naming conventions, God help us. Um, so if Zen 5 is purported to be 20% and Air Lake goes to 40%, right? Hypothetical numbers here, throwing this out. Huge generalizations should be taken with grains of salt. Air Lake will be Air Lake will smack Zen 5 pretty hard in gaming. It will be it will probably be the platform. Now, here's the deal. What is it going to cost? How much power is it going to take? And in other words, how hard is it going to be to cool the thing? Um, is it? It's suppose they're doing away with hyperthreading, which could be interesting. Now, hyperthreading is what makes one physical core get seen as two logical cores, right? So, like for example, the 7950X is 16 cores, 32 threads. So that's where you get those extra threads from is SMT, which is AMD's version of hyperthreading. Um, Same thing with the 14900K, right? So the 14900K is a 24 core, 32 thread part. So basically, it only has 24 cores, but it sees 32 threads. So it acts virtually as 32 cores, not just 24 cores. Well, Intel is, rumor mill is for Air Lake, they're going to get rid of hyperthreading, which I personally don't know if that's going to be that big of a problem. Physical cores are always going to be a little bit better than hyperthreaded cores or SMT cores, um, because that's still at the end of the day it's just one physical core. So one having two physical cores is always going to be faster than just one for the purposes of multi-threading, right? But you can always double your thread count, and doubling your thread count for the same amount of cores is always going to be faster than just having that amount of cores. If you're if you have something that takes advantage of that, obviously. If you don't, then that becomes a matter straight of clock speed, IPC level, instructions per clock, like what work can I get done per clock and how many clocks do I get in a certain amount of time. That's basically what it's going to boil down to, right? So I guess what I'm saying is, can Intel beat Zen 5? I think that's a silly question. Of course they can. They're Intel. They've been doing this for a lot of years. The Empire always strikes back. Um, will they? Hard to say at this point. Hard to say. Depends. If it's all marketing hype, then maybe they won't. I mean, they said that uh, Core Ultra, which was Meteor Lake, was going to be this crazy super thing, and it couldn't even supplant 14th gen. I mean, the reason why we have 14th gen and not Meteor Lake is because they figured out that Meteor Lake just was not as strong as Raptor Lake refresh at higher frequency and higher power draw. It wasn't as good. It was the same, roughly or less, in performance. So that's why they came out with 14th gen on the same chipset, same uh, um, socket, is because it couldn't outdo its predecessor, right? That's a massive change from when what we were sitting here being told this is going to be a whacking great success, right? So looking at the tea leaves, man, Intel could do gangbusters or they could mess up. Like I would not want to be the one to try and call this, right? Um, I worry again that their marketing, um, it's a schematic here, I think, of their design. Yeah, the um, the fear I have is that um, basically they're going to tell you it's like 40% faster, but then the thing that they will say it's 40% faster than will be something that is like 10% or 20% slower than the fastest thing they have, right? Thus creating a situation where they are right even with Zen 5, maybe even Zen 5's winning, if that makes sense. Um, that would be the thing I would be concerned with. It's easy to throw out percentiles and say it's 40% faster than this thing when this thing was not really that fast. So that's kind of the scary part, right? If they are being honest with their marketing and the buzz surrounding this chip, and it really is strong, um, then yeah, we absolutely could see Intel, smack AMD down. We really could. Zen 5 looks strong, but it is just it's kind of a model improvement. It's not like a huge generational increase. It is quite pleasant. Like 20% is nothing to sniff at when it comes to CPUs, but it's not going to be that. It's not going to be 40% or 30%. Like that's if it got to 25%. If Zen 5 was 25% over Zen 4, I would be like, wow, I was totally wrong. I was way too conservative. That's not what's going to happen. Everything I'm seeing, and they're much later into the design cycle as well. They're starting to mass produce these chips very soon, and we're going to get them before the middle part of the year, I think, is what it's lining up to be. But we'll see what happens. That just comes from various sources and things I've read. Um, Arrow Lake is going to be closer to the end of the year, and it is going to be like Intel needs this thing to be great. They really do. They need to win back some mind share. They need to get back in some of the graces of some of the community. I don't have any problem with it. Like I think Intel's problem is the same that all the other companies have. All of them, like all their marketing is horrible. They suck. I hate marketing. These companies, I just don't get it, man. They they lose me. It's crazy how the whole fax thing with when they tried to make AMD look suspicious for false advertising, and it's like that part was false. Like it's just there's a whole thing, right? Intel and AMD are no different. They're competing for the same markets, um, so don't get caught up into that. Like, what is it actually? Go look at wait till it comes out. Go look at the performance. Make it an informed decision as best you can. Do not become a fanboy. Just be a fan of performance. Be a fan of getting the most for your dollar. That's what you should be a fan of. bring back, bring back good deals. That's what I want to see. Uh, that's what we should do. So anyway, hope this video was informative at least. Don't listen to any AMD fanboy that tells you that Arrow Lake is going to suck or that AMD is going to beat them no matter what. And don't listen to any Intel fanboy that says um, Intel is going to smash AMD into bricks, little bits and pieces with Arrow Lake. Okay, we've heard this whole thing before. Meteor Lake came out; it was a big nothing burger. Couldn't even beat the last gen. Something like that could happen with Arrow Lake. Everything I'm hearing so far is very positive, though, and Intel needs this one. So I kind of think if you're looking for one that probably is going to be good, I bet it is. And I would probably be willing to say you want to line up your next upgrade to be around the time that Arrow Lake is getting ready to come out. Um, Zen 5 coming out as well, the middle of this year might be an interesting time to upgrade. But I would say, to get a true big time like jump in performance, if you're an Intel person or you just prefer Intel, I would look for Arrow Lake for sure. I think Arrow Lake's going to be everything I'm hearing is it's supposed to be good. And if it's not that good, Zen 5 will be here and it'll be affordable, or it should be when Arrow Lake comes out because you know it, it's doubtful that it's going to um, it's doubtful that it's going to be super I think either Air Lake wins handedly, or we have another 13th, 14th gen slash Zen 4 situation, right? Where they're actually pretty close, and people have a hard time with that. They want to say, no, Intel wins. And it's like, well, how's it win? Well, I went and bought $300 memory and, crazy motherboard and stuff. And it's like, well, okay. I mean, it won. You paid a price, and you get to go, uh, you know, flexing on everybody with your system stats, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, it's all of it's silly. So, um, but yeah, more to come. Thank you guys. You have a good one. Leave a like and subscribe if you would, if you feel like it. That would be awesome. And maybe you'll see me in a video with all this headgear and stuff on as they check my head waves. That's not a joke. Um, I was diagnosed with non-convulsive epilepsy, so we're trying to look for seizures. So that'll be interesting. Anyway, thank you guys. Have a good one.